About 18 months ago, Paul gave a presentation, and it was really about AI at its infancy. Some of us didn't even know what it meant, and certainly had no idea what it could do for our business, if at all. We're about 18 months down the line. We have all heard about it. We're all probably still a little bit scared about it, what it can do for us. So the idea of today is for Paul to take us on a bit more of a journey towards what it might do, how we might be able to embrace it, and what maybe the next steps will be. So Paul is, we just said I've known Paul 25 years. He's always been somebody who's full of common sense, explains it like it is without too much technical jargon. So I'm hoping that you'll find this very informative this evening. Paul's going to speak for about 45 minutes. He said he could do about 45 hours on this subject, but we won't hold him to that. But I know he'd be delighted to take questions and answers. I'm sure as we go along, but ideally probably at the end. So please, a very warm welcome for Paul Levy from Lighttech. Jeremy?
Yeah, as Jeremy says, what I'm hoping to do is, AI is it's the same with any subject. It starts off a bit quite narrow, and you think that you can get your arms around the whole subject and explain it quite simply. And then it grows and grows, and that's the thing with AI. It's really grown over the last 18 months. And there's so many different types of AI, and it's getting into every part of our business lives, whether we like it or not. So what I thought would be helpful to do was to start off with some basic sort of principles, and then move on to some of the really popular tools that have really broken through, like ChatGPT. And I want to use that then as a sort of the springboard for if you wanted to extend that into your business. Maybe you've got a business where it's not just you, there's a few people you're working with, and to come up with a mental model of how you could approach that. And then to look at some sort of pitfalls, if you like, so we all stay out of trouble. So it's going to be quite fast-paced, a little bit bitty, but there could be quite a lot of ground. Hopefully, at the end of it, you'll have quite a rounded sort of view on it, really. So I won't be getting too technical, and I'm sure that there's people in the audience that know a lot more about certain tools than I do, but what I'm going to try and do is give that nice sort of balance. So looking forward to doing that. It's quite sort of hands-on, so I'm going to be referencing sort of notes and screens and stuff like that. So you'll have to excuse me if I disappear and just look at the screen. So hopefully it will be useful for everyone. Does that sound good? Yeah. Good. I think, so why me? I'm really fortunate. I work with a team of really tech enthusiasts. There's 7 of us in the office, and we're all, whenever's a shiny new tool or something to try, we're straight in there trying things. And then the next thing we have to do is try and break it and find out where the edges are. We're really fortunate. And as Jeremy says, I've been in business for 25 years. I've seen quite a lot come and go, as we all have during that time. Just get the age profile here. We've been through quite a lot, really. We've been through computerization. I know when I started my career, I started out as an engineer, and I was converting hand drawings into computer-aided design. And I'm sure lots of people who were going through those same sort of things, this sort of digitization process. And then we had the internet. So that was a complete bombshell. And we all came on board with that slowly. And the next bombshell was the smartphone, where we put the internet in our hands. And we all think of Steve Jobs there and his turtleneck demonstrating the next shiny, powerful tool. And each one has been a real revelation to our lives, really. And it's been a big social upheaval, and the way we communicate, the way we relate to each other has developed in each case. We've all sewed that up. I think there's never really been such a fast time of technological change, ever. So well done, we're all still surviving. Social media, obviously, when the smartphone was the thing that unlocked social media, as it was in people's hands. And something there that we don't really think about a lot, I call it, it's a bit wrong word, it's probably an easy word, algorithmic mediation. This is this thing where if we're on Facebook or if we're on YouTube, stuff gets suggested to us. We don't ask to see certain things, it just gets thrown at us. And we take it for granted. but somebody's deciding, some little programmer's deciding what they want us to look at, whether that's stuff they think will, whether it's adverts, whether there is stuff that they think is going to hook us, using gambling psychology to get this hooked on that sort of repetitive type of behaviour. And that's really changed society because it's called polarisation, far left, far right. It confirms what you're already might be slightly interested in and makes you really interested in it because it's so clever. And at the bottom there, I've put AI and LLMs. Now, LLMs, large language model. I'll use the word AI and LLM interchangeably, but LLMs are really just a small subset of AI. But it's this groundbreaking thing. So what can AI do for you? Well, AI is a thinking assistant that you can interact with in plain language. You don't need to be a computer boffin or to be able to program to use it and to get really useful results out of it. You've got no coding, no setup, no tech person required. And as Jeremy referred to earlier, we've got this sort of progression. But it's gone from the Alan Partridge sort of moment to we're sort of Jeremy Clarkson at the moment. It talks a bit more sense than Alan Partridge, but not much. To maybe in a couple of years we'll go a bit more David Attenborough, where you can really stake your life on a little bit more anyway. You probably wouldn't want to. But that's the arc that we're going at. And the way that computing power is increasing and the way that the actual the programming and understanding of the LLMs is progressing, it's not linear, it's not a straight line. It's accelerating. It's getting faster and faster. And then disruption, which is associated with it, is going to be faster and faster too. So how do LLMs, how do they work? Well, all they do is they predict the next thing based on what you put in. So that's quite a straightforward thing, really, just making one little prediction about the next thing that might be relevant. But when it's done at a massive scale, somehow, and nobody really knows how, intelligence emerges. Really, what's just a big spreadsheet with values and lots of words that somebody set robots around the internet to gather all this information. When it's put into basically a big spreadsheet and a little program used to relate all different bits, it's like intelligence. And the big question there, I suppose, is what does that say about the nature of human intelligence? Are we just really predicting the next token, the next likely thing? Is that all we are? There's various philosophers and computer engineers and intellectuals really trying to work this out, and there's different schools of thought. So this slide here represents some of the commonly used AIs. You've got Gemini, you've got ChatGPT from OpenAI, Meta, Facebook, they've got their own sort of big AI projects going. Grok, the one that's associated with Elon Musk and X, which has caused a lot of controversy recently. Perplexity, Apple Intelligence, Claude, which is really getting a good name for itself with computer programs. These are like AI workspaces that can be best off us, and they want your whole attention. And then on the right, we've got some more specific AIs, like Runway, for example. That's one that's used for doing involved video work. Suno for doing musical compositions. Stability AI, I've got a whole load of toolbox of different things. 11 Labs down the bottom. They can do a lot of text to audio, really clever manipulations around that. They can do really clever simultaneous translation, for example, as well, between different languages, which is really interesting because everyone will be able to understand each other soon, whatever language you're working in. But I suppose a notable mention there for DeepSeek, which emerged about a year ago. It was a Chinese AI, and it was very disruptive because, for a few reasons. One, it could do a lot more intelligence with a lot less processing power. They found a cleverer way of programming, so it didn't need as much computing power, which really disrupted the whole AI marketplace, because people realized they might not need as many computers, as powerful computers, and it put a little question mark under some of the market leaders. They were getting huge billion-dollar investments, and they said, these guys have done it on a shoestring, did it for, don't quote me, but like 10 million or whatever, they're trying it all, whereas other people were getting hundreds of millions and billions, even paying their top programmers 100 million, like top sort of, it's like Ronaldo or something like that, like top football stars. The talent is such a differentiator. Okay, so I wanted to just mention here what large language models are good at. They're good at pattern recognition at scale, language processing, communication, coming up with new ideas, especially roughing out new ideas. Anything repetitive they're really good at. Workflow, speed, consistency, availability. What we call decision support and augmenting humans, not replacing them, because at the moment there's this big question mark. Sometimes they come up with complete nonsense for occasion. They call it the hallucination effect. So you do need a person at the end of it to say, is this sensible or not? Usually it's great, but occasionally it'll be complete nonsense. And when that happens, the best thing to do is to use another AI, ask another AI the same question, and it'll usually be absolutely spot on. So that's interesting. Lots of good things that AI are good for. What it's not good for, the true understanding of consequences, accountability, ambiguity without context, novel strategy in messy human environments. I suppose thinking out of the box, sometimes it's good for that, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes you get stuck in a way that it thinks about things, and you have to try and ask it questions just to try and make it break out with that. As I said before, it doesn't know anything, it makes a prediction. And the other thing it's not good at is moral judgment. Yeah. Although you'll find that a lot of the AIs do have a bit of moral judgment built into them, because they've been programmed by somebody to have with a set of right and wrong. But it's who's right and wrong is it? It's probably some West Coast USA's programmers' sense of morality, or some sort of tech billionaires' morality, and it may not align with your morality or our sort of views as a British people, as a sort of peoples, generally speaking. And that morality, that applied sort of morality, can be changed very quickly as well. It can be altered without telling us. I've probably got to move on, so I want to get to the sort of the demo part there, because that's going to be really quite interesting. But I've talked a bit here about AI models. They're always updating them, we're giving different names, and sometimes you can choose which model you use. Maybe you prefer an old model to a new one. A controversial thing happened recently with ChatGPT. There was a 4.0 model which was very affirming, and basically people were using it as their own sort of AI bully, but it was causing problems because it wasn't questioning them, it wasn't challenging what they were thinking, and it even led to some people suicides and other related sort of things, because it just led them down a rabbit hole rather than challenging their thoughts. Same interface, or let's say more intelligence underneath it, and the amount of compute and the refinement of the models has been applied all the time. What I want to do now is look at where you might be up to in the way you use AI in your business. No AI used, ad hoc use, operationalized AI, and then more optimized or transformational right at the end, maybe like this fintech companies which are completely AI-based businesses that wouldn't exist if it wasn't for AI at all. But for most of us, we're in one or two. We're in this ad hoc use where we're finding it useful, or we're starting to think how we can embed it into our processes in our business. Now, I'm going to focus a lot of my demonstration on ChatGPT, because it accounts for between 60 and 80% of use of AI in the UK. I checked that was before it came out. I thought it was 60%, but they got an update. It was 80%, and this I think something like 80% of people in the workplace have actually had a download with it as well. So that's all good stuff. Just something called the prompt. When you're using ChatGPT, you need to be specific about what you're asking it. Tell it what the constraints are. Tell it how you want stuff output. And how that translates is ask it how you want it to act, give it the context. You can build a lot of this stuff into the AI itself, so you don't have to repeat yourself every time. You can tell it who you are and what you're interested in. And that's what I'm going to just have a quick demo of now. Okay, great. What we've got here is we've got the interface of ChatGPT, which a lot of you will be familiar with. I find that having it on the phone is a real game changer as well. You can install the app on your phone, whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini. You can talk to it, you can take photos, lots of ways of getting information into there. So the first thing I want to look at is settings. Excuse me. And you can see here there's various settings. You can set the voice, appearance. But if we move on to personalization, you can get it custom instructions. So you don't need to repeat yourself. You can tell it about who you are, how you like to, what kind of results you want, what you don't want. I program these little M dashes. I give away these long dashes that you see in AI results. They're a giveaway that AI has been used to generate that text. So I'm forever trying to delete them when my AI ignores me and generates them. To be honest, I've tried to actually generate those using the keyboard shortcuts and outs and shifts and things, and I can't reliably do it. So I don't know. I think it was the case of typesetting for people who write books, because it's certainly not a thing that any of us use habitually, normally. Yeah, so this will save you an awful lot of trouble setting all this stuff in the settings. There's also a memory there as well, and it will remember things that you've asked it over the last year or two. And that also helps the AI to build a picture of the sort of things that you like. And you can ask it to remember things as well. So please remember this detail about me. And when you're chatting to it later, it will bear that in mind. Then there's various other settings there you can click through, which we'll probably come back to. I pay for my ChatGPT, so I forget exactly how much it is, about $25 or £20 or something like that. But it's well worth it because you get more features, and after all that time, we're business people, our time is valuable. So we need an AI which works optimally for us, that saves us time. We're not having to repeat ourselves. So I think it's one of the best investments you could possibly make. And it gives you can ask more questions, you can spend more time using voice chat, which is really powerful, and you just won't run out of time. I think things like these projects, I'm not sure whether that's even available in the free version, but projects are great because you can put your actual preferences into project settings, and again, you're giving it more details, instructions, and you can upload files as well, reference files. And this is one of the recurring themes that I wanted to try and introduce to everybody. In the age of AI, it's really worth getting all your standard documents, and not in the AI to start off with, but just look at all your standard operating procedures, exemplar ways, letters, the way you write, the tone of voice, any sort of other technical things, and create like a whole folder structure with that information in there. And that will pay you back time and time again, especially if you're rolling out in your company, because a lot of information will be stuck in people's heads. So you need to extract that, put it in the structures format, and then that can be shared with everybody. You can reach some consensus about what's important and what isn't. So while we're in this sort of stage at the moment, if you're running a business, you really do want everybody using these tools so they get comfortable with them, they understand what they can do, the limitations of them, start to think about this shared knowledge and where that exists in the business, and then formalizing that. And then you're going to be in a really good position to talk about things like ethics and privacy and limitations, what's appropriate to use the AI for, what it isn't. And so this is a real good opportunity to start using this now for everybody to be using it at some level or other appropriate. Of course, there's some companies where people are using the AIs unofficially, and companies need to think about policies around that as well, because information might be getting leaked, and people who do this, people who roll out big AI implementations, they often say, rather than that, well, an amnesty for everyone that's using their own AIs to try and get everybody on the using the same sort of platforms to try and release that data that might be stored up, it might be useful, or might be leaking as well. Okay, we need to clean this up. We need to delete everything out of that AI so that it can't be leaked later on. There's something called GPTs, which I've mentioned before, and these are AIs that have been optimized to do a particular job, so they can save you a lot of time. They might connect to other services, to other third-party services, for example. You usually do, or you can create your own AI, which is great. And just tell it what you want. You configure it, give it a name. It'll even give its own icon, description. How should it behave? And then you can upload files, which will be private to that particular GPT contained within that. So I've got one, for example, that helps me write proposals for new business. I feed it with old proposals that I like, that I see as exemplars, and that saves me time when I come to write those proposals. So that custom GPT works as a bit of a walled garden. It's not going off necessarily to the rest of the internet to get ideas. It's more inclined to get ideas from your knowledge base that you built, which is why I wanted to also introduce, it might be a good time to introduce something called Notebook LM, which works in a similar philosophy. It's like a bit of a walled garden. Rather than, if you ask a question, it looks around the whole of ChatGPT's training, or Notebook LM's is a Google product. Rather than looking around the whole of Gemini, it'll look at the documents that you've given it, or it'll look at videos that you've fed it, or just things little snippets of text that you've fed into it. And the way it works is really quite remarkable. There's a few examples here. So if let's click on this one here. Can your eyes explain your overall health? This is just a demo. They've added all these text documents here, and I don't know if they've added in videos, but you can add in YouTube video links in this straight away, and that works really well. And then let's say there's a new subject that you're trying to get on top of, and there's loads and loads of information. You're a little bit overwhelmed with it. You can even make a little podcast that will explain it to you in a sort of conversational way. So I'll just demonstrate that here, and it is quite convincing the way it works.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something that honestly sounds a bit like science fiction, but it's grounded in some really solid data science.
It really is. We're looking at sources showing how the human eye, just through simple pictures, can actually give us this incredibly detailed view of your overall systemic health.
Yeah, and it's all thanks to deep learning, to AI.
So you can So I might listen to something like this when I'm driving. Let's say it's some sort of web development concept that I'm trying to get on top of. Just dump all the references in there, get it to generate the audio, and then you can just listen to it, and it's a really good way of absorbing information. And like I said, it does limit it. It does limit it to what you put in, which is really useful rather than being a limiting factor, actually. So that's really something that I'd recommend everyone has a look at. It's free. If you've got a Google account, you can just type in Notebook LM. It will come up with these demos, and you could try create your own little projects there. If you pay for it, then it just, for example, that audio generated thing, it'd be longer. It'll have a longer context.
So let's go back to the presentation, see where we're up to with that.
Okay, the next concept I wanted to introduce was that of an AI agent. An AI agent is when you give the AI a job to do, and it goes off and does it. So if you want to book a restaurant, for example, in a particular location, it doesn't work brilliantly at the moment, but it will go off and follow your instructions and open a web page. I'll see if I can just demo this quickly. Let's see. So I've got a new chat, and then book me a table at an Italian restaurant in work. You don't need to worry about your spelling. And then I just click agent mode there, and sometimes you do need to go away and make yourself a cup of tea while it does it. But you'll get the gist of it in a minute when it opens up a window all being and you get a kind of an idea of the way it's thinking about things, how it sees the internet. I'm going to come on to this shortly. Some websites actually block AI access because they want to protect the information that's there. But most of us who've got a website want the AIs to have a really good delve around the website. And there's things that you can do to assist that, which I'll go on to. It's a bit painful watching it, but in the same way I've asked it to book a restaurant there, you can ask it up-to-date questions about things that are on the internet. So if you use that agent mode, it will access the live internet, whereas if you ask it a general question, it may rely on its training that may be a year old. So it could be particularly useful in that sort of situation. It's stopped now, it's asked a few questions, but it's made some progress anyway, and I could continue with that, but I'm not going to. Okay, so moving on. Right, okay, we talked about using the AI as a glorified assistant, but we can take it a lot further, of course. So the next thing is to make you can make your own automations, putting AI in the loop. I've just got an example. This is a website called make.com. What it does, it allows you to connect things like spreadsheets, emails, environmental data, feed them into something like ChatGPT. You have to connect it to your ChatGPT account and feed some credits. So every time ChatGPT touches it, it might cost you 2 cents or something like that. But there is a cost to it, and obviously you better watch it doesn't go crazy. But you can set limits in your ChatGPT account about how much it'll spend at once. And then you can get these automations. You can see it mentions things like Google Sheets, and then goes to keywords, goes to prompts, goes to ChatGPT, goes back to Sheets again, goes to the internet, and set up your own sort of automation paths. Now, this is great for anything that's repetitive in your business. It's either repetitive or it's something that people don't like doing. You can kind of play around, and you don't even need to do this from scratch. They've got loads of pre-made ones, what called recipes, already ready to go inside there. So that's something worth being aware of. Then, just check about skipping anything here. Yeah, then we're going on to programmers. They will use an AI as their companion, as their little buddy. Claude, as I mentioned before, is very popular for this. Maybe there's something called Visual Studio that a lot of programmers use. So just plug in Claude. They'll probably have a choice of different AI models that they can use. If they don't like the output of one, they'll try another one. And this is turning like normal programmers into God programmers. And it's been a real revelation, really. And a God programmer turns into something completely different. Again, they can, the amount of productivity, the amount of work that people can get through, it's like one programmer could do the work of 10, 20, 30, what they could do traditionally. So, a lot of people are thinking twice whether they should go into this as a career going forward, because the job's going to be slightly different. It's going to be something different to just being a programmer. It's going to be someone who understands the whole problem rather than somebody who isn't a sort of detailed person. And then we come on to AI that's embedded in things for particular industries. Xero, for example, they've come up with something called JAX, which is a new AI interpretation thing. So there's a lot of, not the number crunching, but the interpretation, or creates like a first pass of an interpretation for people. It could be used by business owners, or it could be used by accountants as a sort of start for 10 as well. If we look at solicitors, there's specialist AIs for solicitors that will crunch a lot of information. I know there's some solicitors in here, but a lot of their work is working with documents and looking through documents, and then looking up relevant sort of case law. And a lot of that heavy lifting can be assisted by the AI, which allows them to spend more time with the client, allows theoretically, I've not solicitors, so I don't actually know how it works in practice, but theoretically allows them to spend more time with the client, more time doing negotiations, and actually truly adding value to what they do, using their true kind of higher order activities. So it's taking this something that might have found extremely laborious, or maybe you had to have loads of actual assistants or paralegals. It's a game changer for them. And this was just what that came up when I did a search for legal stuff. This is another one for financial advisors. Less time on compliance, more time understanding what people's investment objectives are, making sure that their IFAs, it's a lot about protection and look at different scenarios. They can spend more time doing that and less time on the compliance, which everybody hates. Probably. Right, the next level I wanted to talk about was, if you check the time, I've got a bit of time, is how you might want to roll out your AI. We've talked about ChatGPT. There's it's a bit insular because each person in the business might be applying their own forum with that. But with an office workspace, it's a lot more organized. So the two big ones are Microsoft Copilot and Gemini. So I'm going to just mention a little bit about how that might apply. So what we've got in the center here is we've got the AI brain, if you like, and then we've got inputs. So if it was Microsoft Copilot inside Office 365, that is the leading product at the moment, the leading sort of consumer product. It could see your diary, could see your email, everything inside it, potentially. It could see all your chats. So if you're using Microsoft Teams, it could see everything you're talking about, all the different conversations that you've got, voice notes, and then this collection of files that I mentioned before, the behavioral principles in your company, ideal docs, standard operating procedures, previous decisions and principles, tone of voice, all that sort of stuff. It's got access to all that. Not the easiest thing to configure. You're certainly going to need a really healthy Office 365 environment before you do that, a really healthy SharePoint, before you start opening up these different parts of it. Microsoft is very conservative in the way that what it will expose by default. It's because it doesn't want to get a bad name, doesn't want to get a reputation for exposing a lot of information that can be counterproductive or is breaching privacy. Yeah, you'd certainly need a specialist to help with that process, and you'd certainly need all of these sort of documents in place, which is, as I say, is something you can start to look at already. So we've done that. And just, again, this is a sort of philosophical slide. If you're rolling out an AI project, yeah, the technical's important, 10% of it, but the human factors and that organizational stuff, 40% of success is going to depend on that. Problem selection, making sure that you're approaching the right problems using AI appropriately, and then making sure that all the data, whether that's incoming the inputs or whether it's those reference documents, that's appropriate. So it's a balance. But as you see, the main thing is making sure that everybody's on board and knows what they're doing and they're comfortable with it. So that's a good little lesson, really. And these are just a few thoughts I had. Have a few early adopters to play with the tech to start off with, and then teach to the people in your organisation. Educate the staff. Spend time and money doing that. It's going to really pay off. Give them a play space, because any technology, you only start to get comfortable with when you play with it and you've broken it and you've had some fun with it. Some people's idea of playing with AI may not be fun, but it's mine, and I think having that playful sort of approach to it and attitude is one of the most powerful things that you can have. I'm on that on privacy and ethics here now. A slide on that. Just I thought it was worth thinking about that. Assume that anything you type into an AI could be stored and could come back to bite you afterwards. I think that's a good assumption. Do pay for an account, but even if you're paying for an account, don't assume that information is not going to leak out of it. Never paste passwords, secrets, or raw customer data into your AI. I did that demo of the agent mode. There's been cases in agent mode where people have hit a website and it's pulled usernames and passwords from their saved information and pre-populated that website, and people who even made fake websites just to harvest that information. So you maybe want to think twice before you let an AI agent free on the internet. It makes a point at the end. Obviously, it always works as an assistant, as a buddy, rather than relying on it. This was a thing I wanted to mention. Everybody knows that the website needs to be optimized for Google, but what happens when people don't even get to the Google result? They get to the AI result first, and that search might not have even been on a computer or even on a phone in a conventional way. It may have just been a voice search, and they may just pick literally the first result. They may trust that the first result is a better fit for them than when they were doing a traditional Google search. So AI answers they're embedded in there. If you use Google now, you'll find that the AI results come up before the organic results a lot of the time. there's a few little changes you've got to do to your website, for your bolt-ons you need to do to make sure that they're fully accessible to AIs. Some websites block them by default, whether it's a big website, someone trying to collect their information, or sometimes web designers or web hosts will use services like Cloudflare, which will by default block certain parts of the site, and you'll find the website won't get spidered or get indexed properly. Also, there's something called schema, which is a new sort of, well, it's not a new concept, but it's a renewed sort of concept, which gives the AI a sort of a real understanding of what the site's about in overview, rather than literally also every page. So the question is your website ready for AI search? Is it ready for agent search? Because we did that very rough and ready kind of example before with the restaurant booking, but people are going to be using those habitually.
Well, is this a good time to jump into some questions, or just wearing time?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So just wrap it up. Yeah, I'll just wrap it up.
Yeah.
The opportunity with AI really is for us as business managers, as people working in businesses, to use AI to do these things that have got inherently low value, which allows us to concentrate on jobs which have got higher value. Now, my business, it means that I'm trying to turn all my staff into people who communicate with the client, spend more time with the client, more interpreting briefs and taking that overview, better communicators, better managers. And I think we all have to do that in our businesses. We all need to think what we're doing. Is it we're going to be replaced by it? There's no reason why we should be completely replaced by an AI if we think about our role within the business and we look to where we provide a higher level of value. So I think that's my big sort of takeaway. Really think about what you do and what bits will then be replaced by an AI as we want to talk to people. So with that, why am I talking? I'm happy to take some questions.
Anybody bursting with a question? Are we all bombed out with that? Even more scared now? But when you talk about ChatGPT, you talk a lot about me and I in terms of it's quite individual. And then at the end, you were talking about how it can be used in the wider business environment of using Copilot, Gemini. Yeah. That's something that maybe would interest about how we turn what we do into what we all do as a group. Because obviously ChatGPT, you can't have an open model where many users can use it, as far as I'm aware. Is that right?
It's not really made with that in mind.
Yeah.
There is ways you can connect it and make it all of a team thing, but and you can pay for teams, but it's not really designed, because we've got all these tools that we know and love, like Outlook and all our diaries, and Microsoft's really nailed that. And the same way with Google, it's got its Google Docs and it's got its Google Calendars, and it's nailed that workplace that we're already comfortable with. So that's where this next level comes, but I don't think you can just jump to that level in one go.
I do a little bit of work with from NWBC, which is client grants. One of the feedbacks we're getting from grant givers is that they're getting a lot of AI generated grant applications, and they're just pushing them to one side straight away. How do you make sure that when you're working with AI, the end result is actually your result rather than AI produced?
Yeah, it's very easy just to copy and paste all the requirements, try and tick all the boxes, and then just feed that into the AI, and then it'll spit out an answer and you think job done. But I suppose it's down to integrity, really. Make sure what your organisation's got integrity, and it needs to be thoughtful, and you need to look at where you're adding value and use the AI to assist you with that, where you might have a blind spot, things you haven't thought about, and look at what I could produce from the point of view of the person who's going to be assessing it. Does it look like it's AI generated, does it look like it's worth their time reading through it? So use it as your buddy rather than just defaulting to it, because that's always going to look really bad. And AI generated output sticks that mile for anyone who uses it, and as we all use it, well, it just shows disrespect. I find if someone sends me an email that's just been generated with AI, it shows almost like a lack of confidence. But if it uses a tool to work with them, it's got like human soul to it, then you take it a lot more seriously. That's the way I think.
Anybody else?
Hi, do you have any prediction around the market for AI tools in the different sectors? Do you expect it to just keep going up, or is this going to be a bit of a dot-com bubble and then a pause and then some real market players that are actually falling off at some of these larger businesses?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess every industry is different. Some industries are very conservative, aren't they? And the implications of getting wrong are really serious. And in those cases, you're going to have to keep it on a very tight leash. As long as you, and trust will build up, and the intelligence will be embedded. Specialist companies will design their AIs around particular situations, and they'll understand where those dodgy areas are, and they'll steer clear of them, or they'll warn you, or flag you thought about this. So I think there's going to be an exponential rise in every sector, really. And obviously highly regulated sectors are going to have some really good guys that really help people to navigate through those. But I think every sector's going to be, I think every sector's got to embrace it, really. Otherwise you could be out-competed. Yeah.
Have you got any examples of GPT that you've created for your own business?
Lots of it, really. I dabble a lot. So things like things I don't like doing, like new proposals. I mentioned that before. It's a really good example where you could just you could pick out your best ones, and yeah, you put your case in as best you can, and then let the AI loose on it. Another way, just quickly of thinking about it, let's say you're going to write a book. You can write a book with AI really effectively. I've been messing around with that. I've written a few sort of books as a text. And so what you would do, you would say, give me this is what I want to write a book on, give me the chapter headings. No, I don't like those, refine them. And then, okay, give me an overview for chapter 1. Do the same with chapter 2. No, I don't like that, do a different style, and train it as you go. And then when you got a book with a chapter overview for every single one, and then you'll work on your instructions and your tone of voice, and you say, okay, for chapter 1, then you'll apply that to all the other chapters, and then you've got a book. So what might have taken you 2 years to do, you could do in a week. And whether that's got any integrity or soul is another question again. I suppose that depends on how good the AIs are. Yeah, all the time. I know you use AI in your business. Can you think of a good? It's just Rob, isn't it?
Tom.
Yeah.
I think some of the tools that people have within the systems already, like Copilot, or if you use Google has Studio, you can create things very quickly. Say, is he getting a meeting? You can find it in your calendar. It can reference emails that you have had with the person you're about to meet with. And it can search through all the conversations you might have had, even if the business you're about to meet has just been mentioned in a different conversation. And then you get into prep, you say half an hour before each meeting, send you a quick message, you're about to speak this person, this is previous conversation, this is what you might want to talk about. So you set things like that up quite quickly within tools you've already got. I think those are really good uses for AI.
That's great.
Chris?
Going back to the theatre side of things that Jeremy mentioned earlier, there's been talks recently of approaching the technological singularity where AI can improve itself and we're no longer needed to improve on things. Do you think we're anywhere near that?
There's different schools of thought on that. I think some people think that Elon Musk thinks we're already there because AI is better at a lot of people's jobs than we are already. And AI has been used to build AI already, albeit with human intervention. So this point of singularity that was envisaged as a single point in time isn't really a single point in time. It's kind of already here. As I mentioned before, some people think that we're basically large language models in the way that we operate a lot of the time. A lot of the time we work on a bit of a sort of a repetitive program. We're not working in a very creative, speaking of myself, I'm working in a very creative way. We're in a very sort of repetitive, we do the same sort of things all the time. So maybe 90% of what we do is working like a large language model anyway. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. There's a very crowd of people thinking about this.
Time, one more question. Yeah, I think adopting AI is bonding. In our file, there's so many different models, and some do 5 functions, some do singular functions. It's basically difficult to know which one to adopt, and when, and which roles you. And then committee to one, and a month later another one launches, and be creating the training and the cost of it. I think that's the most difficult issue at the moment, is when you...
Which ones to get into?
Yeah. And there is so much, as you said, this is the acceleration of the systems of what's the rules all the time, where they commit to where to go with is going to stand the test of time.
Yeah, I think you can try lots of different ones at the moment. I think the core principles are more important than the AI that you use. Making sure your information's organised, making sure that you're using it in the right way. I think you can retrain from one AI to the other quite quickly, I think. As well as the AI being embedded in a lot of tools. Whatever industry we'll be in, somebody will create a whole suite of tools for us, and it'll be the killer application for that industry, and they'll absolutely clean up. And that'll be great, because when people move from one company to another, everybody will be on the same page.
You okay? Next question. Ladies and gentlemen, can we first of all applaud Paul?
Levy said it as it is, and he's been around a long time. He's just full of common sense and just tells it as it is. I'm still scared of AI. Still not sure what to do, how to do, and how to get that foot on the ladder, really. But you always just said, just go and play with it. But again, I don't know about the rest of you, but you sit there and you go, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? But thanks very much. I'm sure there's so much more to learn. You could have gone on ages, and we've all been fascinated. But thanks, Paul, and we'll see you in another 18 months to talk about the next development. So again, good round of applause for Paul. Thanks.